I'm here with Kat Shackles. Shackles?
Shackles.
Shackles. Kat Shackles with Brank Insurance out of Weaverville. And we were just going to talk a little bit about insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, all the insurances.
It's really exciting.
It is incredibly exciting. Just for a moment, kind of put out there for tenants, for landlords, as it relates to property management, go over some different types of insurance, what you can do to help offer to folks who need services, and how that kind of works in conjunction with the real estate industry.
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of background, I guess, to start with about myself. So I was the whacked out weirdo that majored in risk management and insurance in college at Appalachian State and graduated from that program. And then I started to underwrite commercial insurance. And that company was called Montgomery Insurance, which is now part of Liberty Mutual. So I had a really extensive background in different types of insurance before I came to the agency side. I have been doing this since 2015 and really love it. And I think, helping our friends and neighbors is really what excites us the most. And so to be able to help new folks who are either buying a home in the area, renting a home in the area, or have any other questions about types of insurance that can be related to things that you can live in. We really get excited about that and love being experts in that. So hopefully we'll be able to provide some insight.
That's awesome. You came recommended to me from another realtor who owns a company in town. And you guys being local, I think, is a really big part of why I gravitated towards you. Aside from getting all the wonderful service and pricing after the fact, being in Weaverville, you guys won Best of 2022, right? Best of WNC?
That's right. Yeah, for the Mountain Express, which we're really proud of. It doesn't come without thought. It's something that we really care about. And being a part of things for such a long time, Brank Insurance has been around for over 100 years in little old Weaverville. We really are excited about what we do. We're all friendly local experts. I was born and raised here. I grew up and went to North Buncombe and grew up in Weaverville myself, and have been in and out of the Asheville area the whole time, so as well as everybody else in the office. So when it comes to this area, we know it very well, and we know what it's like to be a homeowner, to be a renter, to have investment properties in this area. And I think being relatable and understanding that part of the industry is part of what helps set us apart and be experts at what we do.
So as a brokerage, you guys don't actually underwrite the policy. You are able to shop for people's best needs, the best fit with multiple different insurance companies. Is that right?
That's right. So being a trusted choice independent agent, we are able to work with several different carriers to be able to suit all of the needs of our customers, and whether that is for their personal insurance, their commercial insurance, all types of insurance involved there. We can help with all of those lines and be able to find the right fit for the right coverages as well as the right prices for our clients.
Wow. So when I was looking on your website, there really isn't an insurance that you can't handle for somebody. You have a long list of abilities.
That's right. So as I was sort of touching on earlier, unless it's health insurance for somebody under 65, which we let other experts help us with, we really can help take care of all the insurance needs that you might have.
Well, that's amazing. I want to talk about some of those. I think the first one I wanted to tackle today is vacant home insurance. I think it's a underpublicized thing in real estate and in property management that a vacant home, if it's vacant for a certain amount of time, homeowners insurance may not cover any type of claim, whether it was previously covered under your policy or not. If the home isn't being lived in, isn't being looked after, that anything that happens to that home is pretty much going to be 100% an owner expense. And as it applies to real estate, there are thousands of listings, maybe not right now, maybe there's only 100 listings left in Asheville, but all of the listings or all of the vacant listings are at risk. Tell me about that. I've heard the timeline as little as 5 days to 7 days of vacancy in the beginning to all the way up to 30 days on different policies. I know you can't speak for the insurance company, but in your professional opinion, where is the limit? When should an owner start to be worried? And what does vacant home insurance coverage mean? What the cost, what does it do for you?
Sure, great question. And a crash course in insurance isn't something that we really get anywhere in our lives. So unless this is an unfortunate situation that anybody has come across, they're probably not thinking or being advised that vacant home insurance is something that they need to be looking into. So you're exactly right. It can be different for each and every policy. Generally for a standard homeowners policy, and that's going to be, your typical companies that you're seeing commercials for, national carriers, things like that. In a typical homeowners policy, you might see vacancy clauses that start to kick in around 30 days or 60 days. But any time that you might think that your home could have a possible vacancy issue, it is a great time to talk to your agent or a friendly insurance expert about their opinions of when a vacant home policy might come into play for you, because in the insurance world, there's some different definitions when it comes to vacancy, and what we might consider vacant might not be what somebody else considers vacant. And so it's important to sort of think through those details and talk to the experts or somebody who really has a good idea of these things to be able to sort those details out as you're going through that process. But again, as you mentioned, I think thinking about these things up front, an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure, really can provide a lot of peace of mind as you're going through that process.
Sure. And considering that most homes that are being sold are vacant minimally, if it goes under contract the first day, it's normally about a 45-day process to closing. So you're breaching that month of vacancy. And if we had talked about earlier, if an ice maker line happens to break or a pipe freezes or something happens, anything, and it's leaking onto the floor and you're past that 30-day mark, you could be in a world of trouble. Same with rentals. When we put a rental on the market, it typically rents very quickly, but that doesn't mean it's occupied very quickly. So I would think vacant home insurance, even if it's a little more expensive, which I assume it would be a premium, it's only going to be in effect for 30 or 45 days. In your experience, do those policies have a minimum? Can you get them for a month? Can you get them for 2 months? Or do they have to be a year?
Certainly so. And that can be one of the advantages of working with somebody who has access to multiple carriers or different markets, because certain markets, standard markets, cannot feel great about vacant homes, and rightfully so. But there's other markets that say, hey, we're okay with that. That's what we do all day, every day, and we don't feel as adverse to that. So while some companies might be charging a premium for those types of risks, other companies might be less adverse to that type of risks and might actually charge a more fair premium than what you were anticipating, or closer to your typical homeowner's premium. But also knowing that homeowners' premiums get prorated, meaning they get returned to you day for day and dollar for dollar of the unused portion of the premium, then knowing that money comes back to you for anything that you don't do, making monthly payments on a vacant policy could be really smart.
Sure. It sounds smart. It sounds like something that you'd rather have and not need than need and not have, right?
And that's the whole principle of insurance. Exactly.
So it sounds like a great add-on for anything that's going to be vacant. But switching into property management, there's a whole nother line of insurance for a rental house, right? If you're living in your home and you have owner-occupied insurance, that might not be the technical term, but you move out and you go to rent your house out, your normal insurance policy isn't going to cover a tenant if the tenant damages or has anything, if the damage is a result of you renting the home out. What do you do in that situation?
Sure. So again, insurance policies have a lot of if this, then that. And part of that is the exposure. We are expecting you to be living in the home. We are expecting the home to have the details that we have contemplated. So if you are not living in the home, if it becomes tenant occupied, whether that's a long-term rental or a short-term rental, that certainly changes what we call the exposure of the policy. And so that's a time that you want to talk to an insurance professional about how that might affect the policy. Certainly in the last few years in the industry, there have been leaps and bounds of what can be included as an endorsement on a homeowner's policy to include some of these rental situations, whether you're living in the home or not living in the home, whether the rental's full-time or part-time. But also it does need to be contemplated correctly, the exposure, right? So as those things are changing and modifying, it's good to know what your options are for coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we've been going through lately and kind of checking everything to make sure we're listed as additionally insured as people's property manager for their home. And I got questioned by an owner as to what that means. And it took me a second because I feel like I know what it means, but I couldn't articulate it. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So essentially, it's letting the other person's policy know that you have some sort of interest in their policy. And they might ask you, what is your direct interest? Are you the building owner? Are you the landlord? Is it a financial interest like a mortgagee? And being able to be added to the policy simply gives them a notice that they could be involved through your activities with something that you are doing, and therefore can give at times an extension of your general liability coverage to that additional insured that's named.
Right. I think that's what I told.
Okay. Knowing that their activities could potentially involve you, that is sort of when that comes into play. So
sure. I think the way I said it, which may be wrong, but it was that I have liability insurance and I have business insurance, and it protects me from something that I do or something that my staff does when they're on the property. But nothing protects us from something that might happen at the property that's not a result of us. And that's kind of where the additionally insured comes in, that their coverage extends in certain areas to help cover in case of damage or in case of a lawsuit or something.
That's exactly right. So if somebody else's actions could potentially involve you or your business because of your relationship,
sure.
And again, somebody who is a tenant and perhaps you are the management company, then there is a direct relationship there, knowing that their actions could possibly affect you being brought into a suit because of that. That's exactly where the additional insured comes into play.
Sure. And from my experience, not that I've been sued yet, knock on some wood,
yes.
That when people do sue, they sue everybody.
That's right.
It's just a matter of who's going to pay. So
that's exactly right. So there's certainly lots of ways to help protect yourself from that through your regular liability on your business policy or your homeowner's policy. There's extensions through umbrella policies, whether that's personal or commercial. So lots of ways to help protect for that.
Awesome. Well, the last thing I want to kind of move into, and there's so much we could talk about, but
don't get me started.
As it pertains to property management, we have been slowly pushing, and we've always pushed, but we're slowly pushing harder as we move into a higher class of rentals for tenant insurance and rental insurance. And as I've been learning about rental insurance, I'm learning that there's some gaps in it as well. There's some things that you may, as a tenant, assume are covered that may not be. It's a relatively small expense. Tell me why it's important for a tenant to have rental insurance.
Let me just climb up on my soapbox right now. There are a lot of reasons why I feel passionate about the renter's insurance policy. Number one, you get a lot of coverage for a very small premium. Number two, it covers way more than just your stuff. A lot of times I hear people, and especially in this area, they say, you know what, I'm not attached to my things. If it all goes tomorrow, I'll just find some new things. They don't really matter to me. I don't want to spend the money on the coverage. And to that I say it covers a lot more than just your stuff because, again, that liability is part of the renter's insurance policy. So potential bodily injury or property damage to someone or something else. I hit a golf ball through somebody's window. I have a rogue shopping cart get lost at the Harris Teeter parking lot and smashes into a Tesla. That could be expensive. That could be an expensive repair for somebody to come out of pocket for. Your auto insurance doesn't pay for that. Your homeowner's or your renter's insurance pays for that. Things get stolen out of your automobile. Auto insurance doesn't pay for that. Your renter's insurance pays for that. So there are many other things that I think the renter's insurance can go to cover other than just the property or the contents inside. So sure. Again, should they do some damage to one of the rentals that they're living in? Property damage, the liability portion of that comes into play.
I think the most that we discuss tenant insurance or renter's insurance with a renter is at not only at the beginning at move-in, but the next time it comes up, if it comes up throughout the term of a lease, is typically when something bad happened. Nothing at anybody's fault. So it kind of negates the landlord's ability or need to cover. It's not because the landlord didn't fix something that they were notified about and water came through the roof. In a multifamily, we've had Water leaks,
yeah.
especially if you're on the bottom floor. It happens, especially in Asheville, where most of the multifamily was built in like 1902. And the tenant needs a place to stay. They need their stuff. They need all of these things taken care of. And of course, they're pointing towards the landlord, like, you did this. And the landlord's under no obligation, unless they're at fault, to provide that assistance. So it's always a tense situation when a tenant calls and says, what are you going to do about it? And our response is, call your tenant insurance or your renter's insurance company. And then they look back and say, well, I don't have renter's insurance. Who's going to help me? And it's always one of those moments where you're like, we talked about this when you moved in. This is a very important thing to have, and it's not expensive.
Absolutely. I think you touched on it, the loss of use, being able to have somewhere that you can say, hey, I need another place to rent. I need a temporary place to stay. I'm going to have to eat some meals out because I can't cook in my kitchen right now. Being able to have that coverage is really nice when you're sort of in crisis mode. And going back to the cost of things, to give a really sort of granular level of things, a renter's insurance policy can generally typically run anywhere from $10 to $25 a month. So when you think of that in the grand scheme of expenses, it could have felt really easy to spend that money in hindsight, knowing that it can provide a lot of coverage in the future for your things or damage. Again, if they have pets, I think it's really important to have renter's insurance. There can be an extension of liability should your pet injure someone or cause extensive damages. So again, the liability extending from you based on what you have.
Sure. And seems like it's always a bad situation. So I guess anytime anyone uses an insurance claim, things have gone severely wrong.
That's right.
But we've had it, another one that we've had probably more often is if there's a break-in. Somebody kicks open a door or breaks a window. They come into the house, they steal some of the tenant's stuff. The tenant calls and says, can you come fix my window or fix the door? And I think there's a disconnect somewhere that they don't realize that when you're renting a house, these are, unless it's a default of the home or a defect of the home or an owner repair that needs to be made, that stuff needs to go on your tenant insurance is what covers that. If you don't have it, not only are you out your laptop and whatever else was stolen, but now you got to fix the landlord's door or the landlord's window, and it's always an uncomfortable situation because I don't want to be having it either. As a property manager, it's the last thing I want to tell somebody when they're upset. They're emotional. They just had their home violated, their personal space violated, things taken, and now they got to fix the damage that they didn't do to begin with. Same with a baseball through the window, with the kids playing in the street. It happens.
Sure.
So I think insurance is there to protect them in that situation.
I will say, generally, because you can carry such a low deductible on a renter's insurance policy as well, it comes with much lower options than a regular homeowner's policy, which usually start about $1,000. Generally, when a claim is paid out on a renter's policy, any premiums that you have ever paid into one is automatically coming back to you after that loss very easily. You're going to see things being paid much more than you would ever see that you would pay for the premium. So, that I hear that a lot of, like, I don't want to pay for something that I'm never going to use. But if you ever use it once, it's going to pay for itself.
Sure. So I think those in property management and real estate, vacant home insurance, rental home insurance from an owner standpoint, and tenant insurance seem to be like the trifecta of the insurance policies that really need to be looked at. Can you think of anything else that I'm missing? What don't I know?
Let's think here. I think you are certainly covering a lot of your bases. I think something that's important to note on the rental side is if it is in your home, you want to make sure you have correct endorsements, considering that it is a type of business that's in the home. So that needs to be added to the policy as it's not just a typical home anymore. It's considered a business in the home. So you want to be able to have certain coverages that suit exactly what you need. And it's good just to talk through the scenarios. Here we are in Western North Carolina, and if you can live in it, I mean, if it has 4 walls and a ceiling, like we call it, a livable unit, whether it's an ADU or a house or somebody's woodshed that they put some insulation and a door on, and now it's, a rental unit in their backyard. So being able to know your options from tiny homes to high value homes is important.
I think one of the best takeaways that I found is that you don't need to know if you've got your phone number, right?
That's right. That's the better part, is that we are the experts, and that's what we get really jazzed about doing is insurance. And so if you've ever looked at an insurance policy, they're really overwhelming. Yeah. And I think that is an unfortunate part of our industry, that we do make things overwhelming. And so that's part of what we do, is really understanding what is happening in your policy and in the insurance marketplace. And we've done this a long time, and we really love what we do. I think that is part of why it's so easy to be an expert in this field, is because we really genuinely care about what's happening.
Well, I'm glad you know what you're doing, because when I was switching over to you guys, I remember having to compare the stuff that you're sending me with the stuff that I had, and actually taking a deeper dive into my business liability, my business insurance, my errors and omissions, fraud insurance, all the stuff that I have. But I never really looked at it. I just knew I had to get it. I got it. So this was the first time I was comparing the two and reading through it. And there was definitely a large part of me that just wants to throw my hands up and go, take the wheel, Kat. And I think I did a little bit, and you guys came out 100% for me. So if you could tell everybody about how to get in touch with you, if somebody's local or in any of the states you operate, you're not just here, you're physically here. This is your hometown, but you guys service more than here. Tell me a little bit about that and how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So there's lots of ways to reach out to us. We work in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, Georgia. So that way we can help with secondary homes, vacation homes, investment properties. Whether you're living here or you might move, you get to take us with you. So while we are physically located in Weaverville, we can operate all over. You can reach us by phone, which is a great way, 828-645-6300. You can find us on the web at brankinsurance.com. All of the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of the outlets at Brank Insurance, BRANK, insurance, all one word, spelled out.
I think also an easy way, hopefully this will make its way to Instagram at some point. We'll make sure that you're linked at the bottom.
Absolutely.
To get people directly in touch with you. I know we're going to be adding you to our website as our preferred insurer. Being local means so much to us. I know there's a ton of insurance companies out there. I know a lot of clients price shop trying to get the lowest price possible. I've found that over time, having somebody that I can talk to, that I can go to their office, that will come in and explain stuff to me, is worth whatever premium above getting a nickel and dime policy. Because in my line of work, cheap isn't good and good isn't cheap.
Totally. Quotes, comparisons, education, talks, reviews, all of that is always complimentary and something that we love to do. Providing any sort of help and education to our community members is what we really are all about. So partnering with other realtors and property managers in the area is something that's really important to us, that we love to do. To be able to help you and your clients only enhances your business as well, which in turn enhances us. Giver's gain out there. Doing the right thing always comes back to you. So if I can help somebody in any way, shape, or form feel more comfortable about insurance, that's what we're all about.
Awesome. Well, I'm grateful that you came in, spent a little bit of
Thanks
time
for
with
having
us.
me.
Yeah, I've learned something. Every time I have somebody in here, I learn something. But this, I feel like, is so common. I could almost bet that most of the homes that are vacant for sale right now have been vacant for a few weeks. They don't have vacant home insurance. They don't even know. It's not their fault because they don't know.
Absolutely.
We're going to start adding it to all of our promotional material when we talk to new owners, to listings, to property management accounts, and hopefully folks listening to this will add it to theirs as well, and hopefully you can be a source of education for all of them.
Absolutely. As things are changing and evolving, in the real estate market, things that have been previously listed for 48 hours might be there for 48 days and vice versa. So anytime we can provide any insight on how the insurance can come into play during a real estate transaction, we are more than happy to help with.
Awesome, Kat. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Right.